be the small business enterprises, the big scale business enterprises. It has hit them, all of them. So I think the strategies that the business people have to take is, how best are we going to make sure that the coffee in Uganda stays in a good quality? Because being the second in Africa and the 8th around the world, I mean, that's a big thing. Yeah. So how best can we work around with our coffee that we have now in stores, that we have in circulation around coffee shops, and also that is in the farm? How are we going to make sure that it's being promoted well? Yeah. So that it gets the market that it wants? Because if it has the market, it means it's a good quality coffee. If it doesn't have the market, then it means that maybe something somewhere it's wrong. Yeah. So I think the farmers, the farmers, the baristas, the coffee roasters, the coffee exporters, the people who are in the coffee business have to find out how are they going to maintain the good quality of coffee and find its circulation around the world. Yeah. So that's how I think we shall have to manage to keep our coffee above there.
Okay. Yeah. Speak about that. I believe that there's also a missing link, that we have to talk about. Basically, both of you had to go through a system of learning about coffee, of learning how to become a barista. With anything else, there's an education that you have to get to make you better doing something, And of late, there are very many schools that are coming up basically to teach about the coffee business, to teach about different aspects like roasting and farming and all these things. How relevant, Derek, do you think these schools are? And do you think that they are teaching and giving the right information to baristas, to coffee roasters? And if so, is there a bright future, that the coffee industry has because of these schools that are coming up?
Well, I think some of them, yes, some of them are doing a really good job. Yeah. Yes, but to be very honest, some of them I think are only about, I want to make some money, and I've got some, little skills, and then yes, I want to acquire some money out of that. But yes, I appreciate all those that are doing, that are going, back, researching, making research, about the background of coffee, how it's handled, from the seed itself to the ground, and then, from the ground to the roastery, and then from there to the cup. Yes, some of them are doing a good job, and then, they're trying to invest, with making a lot of research and also approaching coffee merchants, Yeah, and I think that is a really good one, and I think it's a bright future. Yes, it's a bright future if well handled.
I believe that Uganda is on the right track.
It is.
To getting to that place where the coffee industry needs to be. So we are running out of time. We're getting to that point whereby the show has to come to a close. But before we do that, our coffee has been brewing for a while, and I think that, it's about the time for us to partake of it. I know the Messiah can't wait to analyze what kind of coffee you have made. Yeah. So, Amon, what are your expectations?
Well,
since you seem to be a senior in this.
Well, I think it's a nice coffee, because for the fact that a French press to be well brewed to give you that nice cup of coffee, it has to sit for almost 45 minutes. It has sat for over 6 minutes.
About so that time, yeah?
We expect good results out of this coffee.
All right. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been on the coffee break with Amon, the coffee messiah, and Derek Waititi, who came all the way from Kuwait. Is pouring our coffee that has been brewing for the last 6 minutes. We believe that for those of you who took time to really get the tutorial, to get the different steps of making this coffee, I believe that what you have brewed is a really good cup of coffee. And right now, as we receive the coffee in our hands and partake of it. We just want to tell you guys that thank you very much for taking your time to be with us here on the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. And remember, we are also online. You can catch us on our website at House of Talent Television Uganda. You can catch us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Remember that you can always, drop us a comment, drop us a question. If there is someone you want to see, on the show, let us know who they are, their name. If there are certain aspects that you think the show should have, let us know. You can always send us a message. And I believe that all of us at House of Talent Television, me, Amon, and whichever guests come here, will be able to help you with all those questions. Well, guys, it has been a very good show. I have learned a lot. Derek, thank you very much for honoring us and gracing us with your presence. I believe that it is not really the last time that you will be here.
Please.
Yes, and Amon, Messiah, we believe that you're going to keep converting many more people.
You guys have really given me that name, eh?
Coffee Messiah.
Coffee Messiah, I think it's something he should embrace.
He'll have to start with you. To convert you.
It comes a lot of,
He converted me, so
I mean, it comes with a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I do know it comes with a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
but thank you very much for having us in your living room, on your phone, wherever you watch this from, whichever part of the world. Have a good morning, have a good evening, or have a good night, and remember, always have a good cup of coffee. Thank you for watching the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television.
Bonjour, je suis très heureux de vous retrouver sur ce plateau de House of Talent TV pour cette nouvelle émission de Partage ton français. Chers amis, le français est partagé sur les 5 continents. Il y a une idée géniale qui a été soufflé à nos oreilles, bien sûr, par le président de la République de France, M. Emmanuel Macron, lors de son discours à l'Institut de France le 20 mars 2018. Il parlait de donner l'espace, de donner la chance à tout le monde de pouvoir apprendre la diversité de la langue française. Voilà pourquoi nous, ici en Ouganda, avec l'appui de l'ambassadeur de France en Ouganda, M. Jules Amani-Anamboussou, nous sommes en train de promouvoir la langue de Molière, la langue de Césaire, Aimé Césaire, la langue française. Et voilà pourquoi, encore une fois de plus, nous avons créé les plateformes de partage ton français. Ça veut dire quoi? Le français que tu as appris à l'école, à l'université, même à l'Alliance française, ne garde ça pas seulement pour toi-même. Partage avec ta famille, avec ton entourage. Tous ensemble, au jour à venir, nous allons parler le français. Merci, je ne suis pas seul, je suis avec mon invité d'aujourd'hui. Elle est ici pour partager le français avec nous. Elle s'appelle José. Et je pense qu'elle a une bouche, elle peut parler d'elle-même. Bonjour José.
Bonjour Patrick.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci, toi?
Ça va très bien, merci. Comment va la santé?
Je vais bien.
Très bien José, je vois ton français. You are improving French.
Oui, oui. J'aime beaucoup la langue française.
Yes.
Parce que c'est la langue internationale.
Merci. Et c'est la langue des opportunités.
Oui, oui, oui.
José, est-ce que tu peux te présenter en français? Can you present yourself in French?
Oui.
Properly in French.
Oui.
And you are going to go deeper in English.
Okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Joséphine. Je suis styliste avec José Menzo do Cristo. Je suis ougandaise et j'habite à Kampala. J'aime beaucoup la langue française parce que c'est la langue des opportunités.
Oui.
Je suis contente d'être ici. Merci.
Merci José. Tu es contente d'être ici.
Oui.
Tu sais, nous sommes où? À la chaîne YouTube House of Talent TV.
Oui.
Merci beaucoup. José, je vais demander, comment êtes-vous tombée amoureuse de la langue française? How did you fall in love in French language?
J'aime beaucoup la langue française parce que c'est la langue des opportunités.
Okay.
Et c'est la langue internationale.
So when did you start to learn French?
That was in 2019 when I was given the opportunity from the French embassy in Uganda. Actually, that is through the French government because the French embassy in Uganda is here because of the French government.
Okay.
So I was given a scholarship from the French government through the French embassy in Uganda, and I was taken to France in Paris to study French. My first French class was in Paris, and then when I came back to Uganda, I was given another opportunity at Alliance Française.
Okay.
Oui.
And tell me, who was your first teacher? Your first teacher who taught you French?
My first teacher for French was Blaise.
Blaise. At Alliance Française?
Oui, at Alliance Française.
Okay,
oui.
Okay. Can you tell us, est-ce que tu peux nous dire, qu'est-ce que la francophonie? What is a francophonie for you, according to you?
A francophone, to me, are people who speak French, the different countries that speak French,
Yes.
and also the French culture, and then the way of living. To me, that is francophone,
Okay.
all over the world.
Merci beaucoup. Dans le monde de ton travail, quelle est la valeur ou la nécessité du français? I mean, in your world, in your industry world, what the value or the necessity of French?
La langue française, c'est la langue des opportunités. C'est la langue des opportunités. Oui, oui.
Go deeper in English.
French is an international language. It's a language of opportunities.
Yes.
In the different countries all over the world where there are French speakers or Francophone countries, for you to do business, you must know the language.
Exactly.
So for me to do business in Congo, I must know the language. To do business in France, to do business in Senegal, all those countries are French-speaking countries.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to do business as an international designer, creative designer, I must first of all know the language.
Exactly.
And also being an international language, it helps you to network with different people and socialize.
Yeah.
Because if you know the language, you're able to communicate because it's a language of communication all over. And then also there is a lot of intermarriages. So you can't say, I'm a Ugandan, I'm going to only get married to a Ugandan. If I get married to a Frenchman, if I get married to a Congolese,
Okay.
I should be able to learn the language for easier communication. So it's very important everywhere you go because it's not only English that is important for communication.
In the same idea, I saw some picture. I saw you with the ambassadors. Tell us, first of all, it was Stephanie. I saw her with Chitendi. By the way, even me, guys, you can see the way I'm smart is because of who? Jose House of Creation. So I know people, if you want to be smart like me, please come and be designed by Jose. So tell us about those pictures. I saw you with the ambassadors. Can you explain one by one? Okay.
I've designed, as a creative designer at Jose House of Creations, I've been able to be privileged to design different ambassadors. I've designed Ambassador Stéphane Rivoire before she left Uganda. She was the ambassador of France to Uganda. I've designed her with different outfits. I've designed the current French ambassador in Uganda, Ambassador Amana Nombozu. I've designed his outfit even for his family. I've designed Ambassador Deborah Malak of American Embassy in Uganda before she left Uganda. I've designed her. I've designed Ambassador Anna Radotiramet, the ambassador of Iceland Embassy in Uganda. She left. She's now in Paris. That's where she's stationed for a mission. But when she was still in Uganda, I designed her. I've designed Ambassador Susan Eki, the ambassador of Norwegian Embassy in Uganda. So I've designed different ambassadors and expatriates and diplomats because of our creativity and the way we embrace the Africanity. Because as an African designer, I don't want to be lost anywhere designing what other designers do. I want to embrace who I am. That's why I have a fashion show coming up called Back to My Roots, which means I have to embrace being an African designer, a Ugandan designer, and for people to know me for who I am. So that's why on the 3rd September, which is next week, on Saturday, 3rd September, we'll be having a fashion show with French music because it is supported by Alliance Française Kampala and then the French Embassy in Uganda and Total Energies. So I want us to embrace being who we are and then own it and appreciate the fact that we are Africans. I'm not going to be Louis Vuitton, so I have to tell people to be to appreciate who I am and who they are as Africans.
Merci, Jose. I saw also one picture, you with the Bobby one.
Yes. So in the video of Charenga, His Excellency Bobby Wine, I designed, as Joseph of Creations, we designed all the outfits that he wore, even the cast that he had in that video. That was a very big breakthrough for me as a creative designer because, I mean, he's a big star in Uganda. So designing him in that video really added some more volume and, you know, it spoke a lot more about my creativity. And that's when people started recognizing my talent, yes.
Merci José. Est-ce que tu peux nous donner les noms des 2 ou 3 couturiers, les grands couturiers de France? 2 or 3 names of big designer fashion people in France.
Yves Saint-Laurent.
Yves Saint-Laurent.
Yves Saint-Laurent.
Yes.
Stéphane Bianca.
Exactly.
Pierre Cardin.
Pierre Cardin. Oui. Merci beaucoup. Quelles sont les couleurs préférées des Ougandais? What the color, because the French people they like black and blue. So black and blue, I can say noir et bleu parce que nous sommes en train de partager le français. So which color, favorite color Ugandans like you as a designer? En français,
Let me first say in English, then you help me in French.
Okay.
Uganda, and our flag has black.
Yes.
How does it black in French?
Black, c'est noir.
C'est noir.
Oui.
Et red.
Rouge.
Rouge.
Ok. Merci beaucoup.
C'est l'Alliance française. La maison des profs des Français. C'est l'Alliance française. m'a posé une question, pourquoi apprendre le français alors que je lui parlais de la radio.
Merci beaucoup. Josephine, what inspired you to join the fashion industry? And when did you start Jose House of Creation business? Tell us.
What inspired me to join the fashion industry is my passion for fashion. So I love fashion so much. So before I was in media hosting a fashion program, but I wanted to do more than just being a TV presenter, but be able to do hands-on and more hands-on. So that's when that's what inspired me. And then I joined the fashion industry practically in 2017 when I quit my TV job. And I decided to settle into entrepreneurship as a fashion designer. Yes.
How have you been able to establish yourself as a successful creation designer?
First of all, my creativity in the fashion industry, it's more than what other people do. Yeah. Most people are just fashion designers. But I say I am a creative designer because I do more than just clothes. If you check through the different kind of works that we do. So that's what makes me different, and that with that I've been able to establish myself and be able to design different people. Also networking. So I do a lot of networking with different people when I go to events, and that sells me and my products, and the uniqueness and the passion I put in what I do gives it that unique touch that people find my work quite different from what other people do.
The way you are talking, I can see you love your work.
Yes, I do love it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, because you can inspire many people also to love what they're doing. When and how was your turning point?
My turning point came when I got that scholarship from the French embassy that saw me fly from Uganda. It was my first time in Europe. So going to France, staying there for that time, and everything was paid for by the French government. Like, imagine everything being paid for and you're not spending a single penny. That was my turning point. Wow. And also being able to get the entrepreneurship seed funding from the American embassy in Uganda. That is another government, American government, to finance my business. That was another big turning point in my life. So I treasure that a lot in my life.
Thank you so much. You are mostly in the French networks. Yeah. Take us through that journey. Especially that day is going to, next month, what you say about connection between fashion and the French language.
My network with the French community comes in through mostly the French embassy in Uganda, because I'm a beneficiary of the French government through the French embassy in Uganda. So that has opened many opportunities for me, and the ambassador has been promoting Ambassador Joe Amana Nombozo. I say merci beaucoup pour l'opportunity. He has supported me so much through the embassy and personally, because I designed the ambassador. Even right now, he's in Paris. He traveled last week, but he left me with an order of almost 10 outfits that I'm designing for him. So that means a lot for me. And also through the French embassy, that whenever there is something, he makes sure they reach out to me to design a number of things that they want. Like during the time of COVID, I designed the branded masks for the embassy, and that is an opportunity that was so big for me in business. And also the fact that we have a fashion show that is coming up. My passion for French and the French language has made me be able to get exposed to different opportunities. That's why we have a fashion show coming up on 3rd September at Alliance Francaise Kampala, which is themed back to my roots. So I want to embrace myself as a fashion designer who is an African, and also it goes ahead and says fashion meets French songs. So it's fashion, which is me as a Ugandan and an African designer, but then there is a French part whereby people are going to learn a bit more about French, not just coming for an ordinary fashion show. So I'm fusing the two together because of the love I have and the gratefulness I have for the French government for having promoted me, giving me the platform to be the designer I am today. Everyone is saying Jose up here, but it's this government that has pushed me and promoted me and given me the opportunity. And also I want to say thank you to House of Talent TV for the opportunity for hosting me.
Thank you to Eddie.
To Eddie, okay,
Eddie, the professeur de français.
Yes.
He's going to become a professor, French professor.
The CEO bench. Thank you so much for this opportunity, because this means a lot to me. The platform you're giving me, there is an audience that follows Eddie Okilia and the CEO bench, that he's giving me this opportunity for you to be able to know more about Jose and Jose House of Creations. It means a lot to me. I cannot take that for granted. And also to Patrick.
Merci à toi. Last word.
Yes.
Give us a message, because many people are from. I want you to face the camera. Yeah. Tell those ladies are thinking for them to succeed. They just want to get married. They just want some people to connect them, to push them, to send them mobile money or Western Union.
Yeah.
Can you give them a message about what's coming from your heart?
Yeah.
Motivate them.
In life, to be a successful person, you have to first of all discover who you are, work hard, and even when you face challenges, keep going, don't give up. Everything good comes with challenges, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And there is a saying which says, if you're doing what you don't love, then you're wasting your time. Discover who you are, what do you love, give it your best shot, and you'll be successful. And also to everyone, I want to encourage every single Ugandan, every single person that is watching me, please go and learn French. It is an international language.
Yes.
It is a language of opportunities. And just like I am today, I've been able to get these opportunities because I have an international language, which is French. And a special thank you to House of Talent TV, Edo Kilia. Thank you so much. I salute you for this opportunity.
Merci les amis, nous sommes à la fin de notre émission. Nous disons un grand merci à l'Alliance française de Kampala avec notre directeur Patrice Jules, et merci à notre ambassadeur Jules Amana Nyambusu, et aussi merci à Eddie, le professeur de français. He's the one who blessed us with this wonderful place for us to share French. Me and my guests, we are going to say together, partage ton français. Guys, send us your number. We are going to put you on our platform, WhatsApp. You are going to interact with people. You are going to practice your French. We are here to promote French in Uganda. Vive la francophonie en Uganda. Ciao.
C'est l'Alliance française. La maison des profs, des Français.
C'est l'Alliance française.
Une fille m'a posé une question: pourquoi prendre le français alors que je lui parlais de la radio? Bonjour Kampala, oh. Venez, 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 venez.
Venez apprendre les français.
Je vous invite à venir.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Viens mon frère.
Venez
Viens ma sœur. À l'Alliance française.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Venez, venez, oh.
Venez apprendre les français. Venez à l'Alliance française. Venez apprendre le français. Venez à l'Alliance française.
Je vous invite à venir.
Venez apprendre les français.
Oh, oh, oh.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Le français est langue étrangère la plus la plus largement appris.
Après l'anglais,
La connaissance du français ouvre des portes, des entreprises en France.
comme à l'étranger,
La connaissance du français ouvre des portes, des entreprises en France.
comme à l'étranger,
Le français, la langue de la culture.
la langue internationale pour la cuisine.
La mode, les théâtres, les habitués, la danse et
L'architecture,
le français, la langue de la culture. La langue internationale pour la cuisine. La mode, les théâtres, les habitués,
la danse et l'architecture.
Oh, oh,
Oh, I love French.
oh, oh,
Oh, I speak French.
oh,
Oh, I love French.
oh,
Oh, I speak French.
I love French.
Oh,
I love
I
French.
love French.
I speak French.
Oh,
I speak
I
French.
speak French.
I love French.
Oh,
I love
I
French.
love French.
I speak French.
Oh,
I speak
I
French.
speak French.
Oh,
Oh, I love French.
oh,
Oh, I speak French. Venez, apprends le français. Venez à l'Alliance française.
venez, venez,
Venez, apprends le français.
venez, venez,
Venez à l'Alliance française.
venez à Kamocha.
Venez,
Ou
apprends le
Kotosti.
français.
Blood Sekandé.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Venez dans la grande famille. Venez, oh,
Apprends le
oh, oh.
français.
Venez mes amis.
Venez à l'Alliance française. Des Molières, c'est l'idiot n'a pas pris. En face à pareil à Kampala. Pourquoi tu penses que les Français tirent la internationale?
Que tu sois formé le tour du four, du plaisir. Dis-moi le mot de Anaconda et là,
En pleine évolution.
Venez,
Venez, apprendre les Français.
mes amis, venez.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
La langue française,
Venez,
la langue de
apprendre les
paix,
Français.
la langue de la courtoisie.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
La langue française,
Venez,
la langue de la
apprendre les
courtoisie,
Français.
la langue de paix.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Venez dans la grande famille, venez à l'Alliance française, venez apprendre le français.
Venez à l'Alliance française.
Je vous invite à venir, venez mes
Apprendre
amis,
le français.
venez, venez, venez,
Venez à l'Alliance française.
venez. Tout le monde parle français,
Parlez français.
parle français.
Parlez français.
Everybody parle français.
Parlez français.
Everybody, bina moke, bina moke, bina moke.
Bina Mouké.
Everybody, bina moke,
Bina Mouké.
bina à gauche,
Bina à gauche.
bina à droite,
Bina à droite.
bina devant,
Bina devant.
bina derrière,
Bina derrière.
bina devant.
Bina devant.
Parlez français,
Parlez français.
parlez français.
Parlez français. Venez, apprendre le français. Venez, à l'Alliance française.
Je vous invite à venir. Venez apprendre le français. À Kamochao.
Venez, à l'Alliance française.
À Bukoto Street.
Venez,
Claude
apprendre le
Saint-André.
français.
Venez.
Venez, à l'Alliance française.
Si tu veux parler français,
Venez,
viens à l'Alliance.
apprendre le français.
Si tu veux parler,
Venez, à l'Alliance française.
si tu veux entrer dans la famille, viens,
Apprendre le français.
viens.
Venez, à l'Alliance française.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Fitness Junction would love to thank you for your continued support and patience during these trying times. With the ongoing pandemic, we have come up with different standards of operation that can keep you safe and keep us safe. Come have a quick tour with me.
Hi, my name is...
You see, I think there's been a lot of growth and transformation. I appreciate the work National IT Authority is doing, and also, of course, they come up with policies that people are supposed to comply with. You know, when it comes to with cyber security, like I said, we have a layer of compliance and governance, whereby government will come up with policies and say, okay, we need you, each and every person should have at least a basic thing, which is antivirus on their devices. Because at the national level, they have what we call cyber threat intelligence, whereby I think UCC has a solution. Because I remember I was involved in that tender for procurement of a cyber threat intelligence solution, whereby we could be able to identify this is a new attack, it's coming from Russia, it's attacking our bank here, then they could be able to block that traffic at a national level. Well, the government is doing something. But then also, as individuals, like I said, we need to also be vigilant. Because the government will not be able to understand which new VPN client has come up, or which new VPN solution has come up, probably because they will not know. But for you, go ahead and download it and install it on your device. And then you trust transacting. You actually go to, then you say, oh, I've stolen money from my account. Oh, my information was stolen. Oh, I see notes on social media. People steal notes from people's devices, and actually they ask for a pay. Someone says, if you don't give me $100,000, I'm going to publish your nonsense on the cyberspace. You know, so people need to be vigilant. But of course, the government is also doing something.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
In countries like Finland, they designed a program for 5 years to do serious food literacy. If you went to Finland today, no restaurant will serve you supper past 7 p.m. No restaurant. Here in Uganda, you can eat
midnight.
Until 2 p.m. You go back home and sleep. You see?
And wake up to have breakfast at 8. Hello viewers, welcome to yet another episode of You and the Law, the COVID edition. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. As you all know, You and the Law is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the relationship between human beings, Ugandans, yourselves, and the law in Uganda. As you know, the law affects every aspect of our lives, whether it's about food, whether it's about traffic, education, everything that we do rotates around the law. In this edition, we are discussing the impacts of COVID-19 on human rights. And specifically for today, we'll be discussing how COVID-19 has affected the right to food. Do you know your right to food? When was the last time you ate? But what does a right actually mean? To help us unpack this complex area, we have a seasoned lawyer, Mr. David Kabanda from the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. David, you're welcome to You and the Law.
Thank you so much.
How have you been?
I'm fine. How have you been?
Great. You know, COVID-19 has sort of come and disorganized our normal lives. I wonder how, you've been coping up as a professional, as a family man. How has it been?
Well, it is difficult to everyone, as individuals and also families and communities. We find ourselves in those unprecedented times. There is no community cohesion as it used to be. So I personally, I find myself in challenging times, but of course, we soldier on.
Okay. I'm interested, when introducing your organization, the name is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Maybe could you just help us understand, why you came up with this organization? What do you actually do, and how I can benefit as an ordinary person from the work that you do?
So this is the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, and it is looking at having a one-stop center for law and adequate living. But you see, adequate living starts with food. This is what many people do not understand.
Yeah.
The moment someone wakes up, the first thing to think about is breakfast, then lunch, then supper, then in the middle you need water, you need a snack, you need fruit. So the entire life of a human being rotates around food. And being lawyers who do social justice, we started this organization to be able to contribute to unpacking, articulation, and also giving legal services to people for the realization of their right to food, but also adequate living. Because you cannot talk about food and you disassociate it from economic rights or trade. So the two work together, and this is why now we have this organization, the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights.
Oh, okay.
CEFROT.
Yeah, I mean, the name is really... yeah.
So the acronym is CEFROT.
CEFROT. Okay, maybe that's fair.
Yeah.
So David, you're talking about adequate living rights. You're talking about the right to food. But what is the idea, behind this right? If we, as a concept, like what does a right to food actually mean? Before we start discussing the legalese and everything.
Thank you for asking that question. You see, the right to food, interestingly, many people do not even think that there is such a right. Many people, when you talk about food, this is one of the things people take so lightly, yet it means everything to them. But the definition is simple. The definition according to international law and the UN is only realized when every man, every woman, or child, as an individual or in community with others, have access to food. At all times or means of its procurement.
Access to food.
All times. All the time.
And means to its procurement.
Or means to its procurement.
Interesting.
And you see, this is where I started from. Every woman, every man, every child, alone or together in a community, have access to adequate food at all times. So you realize that it is already unpacked. We are talking about a man. And there is a reason behind that. A child's nutritional needs are different from the needs of an adult. If a child has been born, we are now speaking with parents. From the day they are born to the 6th month, they must be exclusively breastfed. If you take that breast milk, it is not beneficial to you. So every man, every woman, or child, whether alone or together, and the together component comes in, some people live communally. And we have other also organized institutions like schools or like prisons.
Portion bins.
The moment you take me into prison, then you have an obligation to take care of me. You cannot just abandon me in prison. You cannot take me to prison and you don't feed me. So whether alone or in community with the others, have access to adequate food at all times. That is also very interesting and important. At all times and all means to its procurement. And that last one is also very important.
Means.
All means
how
to
to
its
get
procurement. Because procurement is a bit bringing in the economic issues.
Yes.
Not everyone has a garden. And you see, it is a choice. Not everyone wants to go to the garden to dig and get food. But you must make sure that your population has means to the procurement of food. Yes.
I mean, interesting.
Yes.
I think for me, access, the means, and then the time, like at all times.
All the time.
Very interesting.
Yes.
So you've sort of unpacked the idea for me in a very, basic and simple way. But then I know that for ideas to work, they need to get some, force of law. So I'm wondering, do we actually have like a legal framework, be it global, be it African or even national level, that guarantees this right? Because some people could say that those are just your ideas, your wishful thinking. Without a law, how do we enforce it? So I'm wondering, is there any legal backing for this right that you're articulating very well?
Actually, what I've just talked about is picked from the law itself.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now, this is the legal framework. At international level, many people, because now we are talking with everyone, we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yes.
Under Article 25, we are talking about the right to adequate food. You understand? Article 20. This is way back in 1948.
So there's a new word there, adequate.
Adequate.
Not just food, adequate food.
No, and I'm going to be speaking about that. We are talking about adequate food. And I'll be, explaining that. Then, after that, in 1966, we have the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights.
Yes.
Article 11, also articulating that state parties to the convention, to which Uganda is a party because we signed it in 1981, that every state party must respect the right of everyone to adequate food. Then after that we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
Now we are getting home.
Yes, we are getting home. Under Article 16, it is also well articulated. Then after that we have the East African Community Treaty.
Hey, our friends Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Burundi.
It was signed in 1999, and the many other protocols that have come along the way. Under Article 130, 118, 113, 100 itself, they talk about nutrition. In fact, I have taken a lot of time without suing the East African community. I don't know what I'm doing, because in it, every country that state party to the East African community must have, they even give it a very exotic name.
Yes.
Strategic food reserves.
Strategic food reserves.
Yes. I think they were deliberate on picking that word. Strategic food reserves.
For us in Teso, we have granaries. Are you suggesting that the state should have a huge granary where food is reserved? What would that mean actually in practical sense?
Yes, in practical sense, the government must have a system of having its own granaries. Of course, we call it food reserves. There is no country, even if we go to at individual level, I don't know what happens in policy making and what our leaders think. Even in my personal house, the first thing I check out is food. Do we have food for an entire month, a week? You understand? So every country must have those strategic reserves. In case there is drought, in case there is that hunger, then you release some food to your people. You control the price. You understand? But we don't have now here. We used to have, but I think they were sold.
Okay. And then at the country level then?
At the country level, okay, you took me to that. Then when we come back home here, we have some laws. Some laws are not very good. And I'm going to tell you why. But let us start with the Constitution.
Yes.
In the directive principles, the objectives, it is clearly spelled out. One, that government must establish, we call them national reserves in our Constitution. National food reserves. Then secondly, it is government's obligation to make sure that every Ugandan eats nutritious food. Yes. And it is government's obligation under the Constitution to create massive awareness about this critical component called the food. Massive awareness. Then if they are doing that, then they have dispensed their obligation. And beyond that, when you go to chapter 4, we are talking about human rights now. Under Article 20, the government has obligation to respect freedoms and fundamental rights of every Ugandan, including the right to food.
Yes.
And although it is not, it's specifically mentioned from Article 20 to 45 in Chapter 4, but under Article 45, we are talking about other rights that are not specifically mentioned.
Yes.
That is our constitution. And in the amendment of 2005, when they were scrapping all those other things, I don't know who smuggled into Article 8A, because Article 8A operationalized the objectives.
Yes.
And in fact, the Chief Justice, as he then was, Bat Katreve, in Nyakana's case, they have come up to articulate that now all these objectives are justiciable. So when we come back home, the legal framework is very expansive and very accommodative, because we even have the Food and Drugs Act.
Oh.
Yes.
I mean, you know, quite a revealing, explanation from you, and you've even touched on the aspects of the state obligations, which, raising awareness. I don't know how many people have been aware that actually the government of Uganda has a duty to let you know about nutritious living, about the kind of food that you should eat. But maybe that's an interesting point for us to pause for a quick break, after which we'll resume the conversation with David Kabanda, who is Executive Director of Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, a non-government organization here in Kampala. Let's go for a break. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, on a day-to-day basis, Whether it is in your bedroom, there is a law that governs it. If you're married, for example, even if you're single, there could be something touching on the law, because you might be in your bedroom with an underage girl, or you might be with another person's wife, all the things are the law,
If you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity, freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave.
If you look at our penal code, it sets out another marriage laws. It sets out the persons who can marry and those who cannot marry, right? For example, you can't marry your close relatives. If you did, you'd be committing a crime.
The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how to worship, how many times in a day. No, you have a right to work. Your right to work, you have freedom of association.
Cohabitation for whatever period of time does not make you husband and wife, right? And that is why we emphasize to people that when the relationship is still hot, you must ensure that you do what? Marry.
Yes. For human rights to be respected, protected, and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals, oxygen should be there, health workers should have gloves, teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television, coming soon.
This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda in partnership with I4C Africa Hub. Today we're discussing another human right that has been affected by COVID-19. And I know for many viewers this seems like obvious because we're talking about the right to food. And who else than David Kampala can help us unpack this right, because David has been a social justice lawyer and has been working on the right to food for a long time. He comes from the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. David, welcome from the break.
Thank you.
So before we went for the break, we're trying to demystify this right, what actually it means. You've touched on what the state obligations are in as far as the right is concerned. So let's now switch modes to COVID-19. Like, you know that this edition of You and the Law is focusing on COVID-19 and how it has affected our human rights. And for today, we're specifically focusing on the right to food. So from where you sit, David, how has COVID-19 affected the right to food? Because I know this is your space and perhaps you've been having interventions here and there. But from a broadness, how has this right been specifically affected by COVID-19?
I think where we start from is it has helped, first of all.
COVID has helped?
Yes,
okay.
It has helped this particular kind of theme, the food. And why am I saying this? I want to start with being positive because one of the essential things that the government had to even procure was food. And those, you remember that even the markets were left open and the people were meant to sleep there to sell food.
Yes, please.
And you also remember that government also declared that farmers are essential workers.
Oh yeah, so more than lawyers.
More than even us as lawyers. But for me, that one is a positive because it shows how important farmers are, how important food markets are, how important making provision in terms of emergencies is. But we have seen many violations. We have seen many, hunger and death, by the way. It is just because we haven't done an audit. But I know many people have died because of hunger in COVID-19. And why am I telling you this? During COVID-19, the first lockdown, we, as an organization, we did a survey. And we found out that 65% of the people, at least in Wachiso, were in their homes and they did not have any hope of
60%?
65. Yes. And we found many people who are living with illnesses, chronic illnesses, dying not because of the illnesses, but because they don't have access to food. You see, when you're supposed to take medicine, it must be taken with food.
Some even they tell you take with milk.
Or take this medicine after food.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you are locked up. You walking or going to the hospital was first of all limited. It was very difficult. You saw pregnant people being even beaten on the road by security agencies. So many people found themselves entangled. They are at home, they don't have food, they don't have medicine. Or they have the medicine, they don't have food. That is number one. The number two, it affected food safety. How? Many people who had contaminated food put it out cheaply. Many people bought contaminated food, I'm telling you. And it showed out that even the food which government decided to give to people, 38% of that food was contaminated.
The portion...
The portion beans that people ate.
David, how does food get contaminated?
Well, that is... You see, food... The contamination starts way back in production, in the garden. How? Be very careful when you buy food in Uganda or in the main markets in Kampala. I've started telling people and lawyers specifically because we need to live longer and serve the community.
Yes.
Grow your own food or pick the food from where you are certain, because Ugandans are using many chemicals, and the chemicals are causing cancer. Makerere University has just given out research which indicates that 98% of the food in the 5 markets in Kampala is contaminated. 98. Have you gone to these markets and you find tomatoes having whitish substance?
Yes.
At EU right now, you cannot take any product which has mancozeb. That whitish thing is called mancozeb.
It's a preservative or?
No. It is a pesticide and a fungicide, sorry. So and many people ignorantly use it even in the market. And consumers also want to buy that one with the chemical.
And then we like it in kachumbali, cutting.
And this is what I want to tell to Ugandans. That yes, we are talking about health diets, eat vegetables, eat raw food, but you need to be extremely careful. No Ugandan has the capacity, or they have the capacity, but no Ugandan produces the food that is safe for yourself, for your consumption. The many rejects from the exporters are dumped back to our market. And who regulates? Before you export any product in Uganda, there is what we call phytosanitary. You know, they check whether there are no chemicals and everything. But in Uganda, who checks whether what is put in Nakasero or everywhere?
I thought to have the National Bureau of Standards.
No, who tells you?
We have the Government Analytical Laboratory. What do?
They are there, and this is what we are discussing right now. That Ugandans are very comfortable with the leadership that they have. I should say the leader, and I don't mean the political leadership. I mean the technical leadership, because we have district level leadership, which is supposed to check all this. And we are speaking to Ugandans. Some Ugandans are not listening. But where we came from, we were talking about COVID-19 and how it affected the right to food. The right to food safety, after the lifting of the lockdown, there were too many items in the shops, in the supermarkets, which had expired. Those items were never taken out. People bought.
They're disposing them cheaply.
Myself, I bought water. Many Ugandans don't know that water expires.
You mean mineral water?
Mineral water, that water you buy on the shelves on those bottles. You be careful. You read the expiry date. You'll find that you are drinking expired water. Many people just bought and do. There is something that I want to tell to Ugandans.
It might make me stop eating at all.
No. Have you seen many people from Western countries? When we go to these conferences, whether abroad or everywhere, they carry water in their bottles.
Yes.
Why do they do that? Or they have water in the
tap. They get it from.
There is something that I want to communicate to all Ugandans. If we were very concerned, today we would be suing this country. Each family that has lost a person to diabetes should be suing this government for compensation.
David, so let's get back to, you're raising very pertinent issues.
And this is where it is coming from. I know you're talking about COVID-19 and the food. But this is what I want to tell you. When the government decided to give out posho, the kind of posho the government gave out, even when it is not contaminated, it is dangerous to your health. Because they were giving out refined posho. Refined. Government, that was illegal from the word go.
David, we all get maize, take to the machine, the meal for us.
Again, you see,
that's what we eat even at home. So what are you expecting the government to do?
The right to food has 3 obligations, like any other right. We have the obligation to protect, we have the obligation to respect and to fulfill.
Yes.
Let me talk about the obligation to protect. Government must protect us from third parties or protect our right to food. Third parties, 94% of maize millers in Uganda are not operating food grade materials.
David, every time you drop a statistic, my heart just
this is where we
shrinks.
And this is why we are doing this work. Now, the milling machines wear out.
Yes.
So you are eating metal in the food. And here is government of Uganda accepting whoever donated kaunga. But what you are giving to your people, we even warned them. Have you heard about food terrorism. What if
Food terrorism?
Yes, someone can wake up and they supply tons of posho, you give it to your people and they die. And many people die.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about 38% of the food being affected or contaminated, it was contaminated with metal, it was contaminated with aflatoxins.
Yes, I think there was a time they rejected our maize in Kenya.
You know?
Yeah.
He was, and so many other things. The beans, you couldn't eat them. So it left many people beyond what government supplied, but these suppliers also. But again, also prices.
Yes.
We even went to court to challenge
Yes,
government.
yeah, I want to ask you about that.
Yes,
that case.
our organization went to court to challenge government on its failure to regulate food, COVID and the food. Because if you decide to give out people food, and this is public expense, it must be with guidelines in the Gazette.
Yes.
But that didn't happen.
Well, maybe that was not time, David.
No,
We're all in rushing.
But we have regulations about are you going to hospital?
Spitting.
Yes, spitting. You must report whoever you've seen having. Did you read those regulations?
Yes.
If a minister sat and passed regulations under the Public Health Act, wasn't it proper that government ought to have passed regulations under the Food and Drugs Act?
We will have time to talk about the legality of all these things that. But you've touched on government intervention so far, and I wanted to just ask: is there anything good that came out of the government interventions? Because you seem to paint a very scary picture. What are some of the? What would you think worked in as far as government interventions to protect the right to food during COVID-19?
No.
Anything that government that you think is...
No, I want to tell you that whatever was positive was just circumstantial.
It was a mistake.
Yes. But if we are talking about deliberate intervention, whatever government did was illegal in the first place. Seriously. And I want to speak to the face of government and I tell them, whatever you did during COVID-19, giving people food, was illegal. It killed some people. If you want to do audits, do them. If you don't want to do, of course, Ugandans don't care. They will sleep in their grave and that is it. You cannot wake up and just give me a parcel that there is food there when you don't know actually what is in the parcel. And this is what I'm saying.
So meaning the government's duty to ensure
that food is safe,
of good quality,
yes,
is adequate, nutritious.
They didn't do that.
They didn't do that. David, I mean, it's a heart-wrenching, revelation. But I think let's go for a break at this point. And then when we resume, we'll then try to tackle a bit of the challenges and look forward, cast a picture that if we got into the situation in future, what are the lessons we learned? What do we need to do best? We'll have that after the break. Viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition. And today we are hanging out with Mr. David Kabanda, the Executive Director of the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, a non-government organization that focuses on protecting, ensuring the right to food in this country. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition, proudly brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda in partnership with I4C Africa Hub. Let's go for a short break. We'll be back. Welcome back. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, and today we're having Mr. David Kabanda, the Executive Director for Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, to expound for us the right to food, which I think is ably done from the start. Explain how it has been affected by COVID-19, what the state has done, what has worked, perhaps what were the challenges that we encountered. And now we're trying to look to the future, David. And welcome back, really, from the break.
Thank you, sir.
I know we started from the first segment, we slightly hinted on some of these challenges that we encountered in this process. I don't know if there are any other successes or failures that you can give in the context of protecting the right to food during the pandemic.
Well, I think the government ought to have also understood, because when we are talking about right food, there are three critical elements that we must put on table. I already talked about availability of food, that the food must be available. Then the food must be adequate in terms not only that it is enough to fill the stomach, but nutritious. But it must also be accessible.
Yes.
Now, during COVID-19, we had very disturbing facts. We had food rotting in people's gardens.
Yeah.
You could even find on the road when people have even powered cabbage. You understand? We have places like Isingiro where we had matoke, a batch was going to
1,000.
1,000.
Yes.
You understand? So what government ought to do, and a system that government must put in place, they should now own up the system.
The food system?
The food system. We have private and government hospitals.
Yes.
We have private and government schools. Did you get what I'm talking about?
Yes.
What is failing us here now on the right to food is we do not have a government arm when it comes to food. Because do you know what ought to have happened is, if you know that food in this particular place, we are in a pandemic, but it is plenty here and here people are dying, then you must facilitate its transit to places where there is scarcity.
Yes.
Right now, we have Kalamajongs who are dying because of hunger.
Yeah.
I have seen World Food Program, crying out loud. But we have food here. We have food in some spaces. So we think that if government puts, its mind to these three elements, availability, accessibility, and adequacy, will go there. And I want also to mention something on adequacy.
Yes.
I made a statement that each family that has lost a person to type 2 diabetes, they need to sue this government for compensation. And do you know why? Many people in Uganda don't know what and how to eat.
What and how to eat?
Yes, including us who think that we have gone to school.
Yeah, for us, I come from Teso, we get our cassava flour.
You leave the Teso.
Mix it and
no, you leave the Teso thing.
I don't know what you want us to do again.
When you leave Teso, you come to Kampala.
Yes.
And when you come to Kampala, you get accustomed into the lifestyle that happens in these streets.
But here it is matoke, David. I don't know what you're talking about now.
Are you sure it is matoke? No, it is the chapati.
Oh.
It is the Rolex. Didn't we have a minister for tourism who was promoting Rolex? But I want government to come here and challenge me on where do we grow wheat in Uganda?
Yes.
This is all imported.
Wheat.
Did you hear about people who were given food in Pade and Amdat and died? They ate food and died. They ate food which was imported. And we are questioning, we are asking government, where did this food pass from? People are just consuming chapati, but chapati is going to eat into our communities. Chapati is going to kill people. And you know why? It is delicious, people want it.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, this refined flour is going to kill all our people.
You know, David, I studied in Busoga region, so now I'm concerned when you say Rolex is problematic. We might be dealing with it will be a genocide of sorts, because then it's a popular snack in Jinja, Uganda.
If someone cares to do an audit on how chapati and rice is
even rice, David?
Yes. Yes. Do you
so
know
the growing Kibimba as you go to Tororo?
First, listen to me. The communities or rice-eating populations don't eat rice the way we eat it. I've been in India. The way they eat chapati is not how we eat chapati. The way they eat rice is not the way we eat rice. People eat vegetable rice. Here, you just put in the saucepan, you get a mass of white stuff, and you put it in your stomach, and then you sleep with it. It is going to kill you. Let me tell you, seriously speaking, many Ugandans are going to die before 60 years. Do you know that 85% of Ugandans are dying between 45 to 60?
You know, every time you drop a statistic, David, yeah, my heart disappears.
For me, I'm telling people, but people don't want to listen. And this is where government must come in to regulate.
Yeah, regulation.
Regulation, but also create massive. In countries like Finland, they designed a program for 5 years to do serious food literacy. If you went to Finland today, no restaurant will serve you supper past 7 p.m. No restaurant. Here in Uganda, you can eat
midnight.
Until 2 p.m. You go back home and sleep. You see,
and wake up to have breakfast at 8.
Yes. So what we are talking about, that COVID-19 found us with our problems.
Yes.
It has it has increased them because we are talking about low COVID-19 and food. Many people couldn't even get inputs to grow food because you see the entire ecosystem rotates around my mother. I work in Kampala. I work, get money, buy inputs and send to my mother.
Yes,
that didn't happen during COVID-19.
No movement.
There is no movement. Shops are locked down, and the entire chain was disturbed. But of course, we are now talking about a new season. People are planting. Perhaps we'll have enough food. But when they grow the food, is the food safe? Is the food transported? Many people here are eating beef from these cows from Western Uganda, from Chiboga, from everywhere. But do you know how those cows are transported? Have you ever found a cow shivering?
Yes.
Do you know what that means to that meat? The moment that meat is slaughtered, it is already toxic.
The shaking of the cow.
Do you know how they tie their tails? And up, you see that pain on a truck for 200 kilometers, and then you bring it to the and you slaughter, and then you. Have you heard about formalin in meat?
Yes,
in Kampala?
yes.
Do you know where that story ended and why nobody is talking about it?
No.
Who told you that formalin stopped? Have you heard about people who pump chemicals into chicken?
I mean, there was a time we were happy if you're eating and you see flies. Actually, when you're buying meat, one of the tests was that you should see flies in the bush. Otherwise, if it doesn't have, then there's a problem.
Then we have a problem. Then we have fish. Everyone now has a fish pond. Not everyone, many people have fish ponds. Who regulates the fish
industry? How do they feed?
You understand?
What do they feed on?
What do they feed on? If you, my brother Jonathan, if you still eat chicken in any of the restaurants in Kampala, you're doomed. I don't. Do you know why? I have ever been involved in the chicken business. And one time I found out that the practice is when they fall sick, sometimes it is tragic. They can even die in one day.
Yes.
They pump with, antibiotics and everything, and they bring it to the market.
It's like I want the heavy thigh.
So who regulates it? The issue is not because every farmer here is a veterinary officer
in this country.
So who regulates the poultry business?
Yeah.
Have you seen chicks coming from Nairobi, coming in on trucks? Who regulates that?
Yeah. So, David, you mentioned, you were talking about regulation, and it's really a core, state obligation. At the certain point, you talked about inputs, about seeds that we actually plant. And I wanted to sort of try to see how can we link that to actually, food safety, ensuring that we eat right food. Because I think there have been a lot of conversations around GMOs, around what. Yeah, I wonder what your mind is in this area. Because, you were talking about coffee, but all these are interlinked. Ultimately, if I plant something which is bad down, you don't expect it to give you anything better anyway. Yeah.
I want to be on this camera, and I thank President Museveni. he has rejected the GMO bill twice. And President Museveni, I want to thank you so much for that. And I want to appeal to members of parliament. Now that the president rejected that GMO bill, please don't pass it into law. What we need to work on is to advance community seed banks.
Community seed banks.
People don't have seeds. Companies have come here, they've introduced hybrids and other varieties,
yes.
And our indigenous seeds are being eroded away.
It's a curious case because, again, where I come from, we used to have one ground that was called etesot. Like, etesot would mean like from teso. And then suddenly these days we're talking about Serenat 1, Serenat 2, Serenat 3. Like all the local names, all the things that we used to have local names for, you can't find them. I can't ask you, where have they gone?
So I think now that takes us into another discussion of food sovereignty. Because it borders on food security and everything. But the only thing that I want to thank President Museveni for, he has been for our indigenous knowledge, our indigenous food. But what defeats is policy implementation and plans. Because, President, if you want us to have safe food, then you must also implement the extension workers' policies and agroecological practices in our communities. Because people no longer have the seed to plant. True. And when we get the seed to plant, we are getting these hybrids, and we do not know how
that are created in
are affecting
laboratory.
Even, yes, and how. And by the way, people must be very careful. This food is affecting our genetic makeup. Seriously speaking, and this is why it must be regulated to the core. It must be regulated. Listen. We are going into a generational crisis. And you know why? Science has indicated that we have what we call the 1,000 critical days of a human being. And where am I reading
That's about
this?
3 years.
No. From the day you are conceived to your second birthday. That's the first phase. And where am I reading this? I'm reading it from NDP 3, National Development Plan 3.
Yes.
You understand? Talking about human capital development. The moment someone conceives, or before they conceive, they must prepare the body using nutrition. You understand?
Not swallowing some...
You understand?
Pills
then immediately after conceiving the baby, you must change diet. You understand? And after that, throughout pregnancy and giving birth, I have already talked about exclusive breastfeeding. But what do children eat after? We did a study and people are picking sodas and everything to give to children. Poison. Dangerous.
David, man. Let's move now, looking at the future. Worst case scenario, in another 5 years, we get another pandemic. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. What are those lessons that we pick from COVID-19 that can enable us safeguard the right to food? What those recommendations that you would give so that, because you know when the thing started, we thought it is fine in China. So, and I thought we had enough time to prepare. But now, just caught us off guard. So in, say, 10 years, if this ever happened again, what would be those things that you say, you know, for us to manage, if something of a similar magnitude came, this is how we would protect the right to food?
Of course, the right to food creates obligations and responsibilities. I have talked too much about obligations, but there are also obligations on people. The people, if government tells you it like this, you realize that the pandemic has killed many people who had underlying illnesses. If you had diabetes, it was very difficult for you to survive. So the first thing is eat properly. The government sometimes has created awareness, NGOs like us are doing it. Make sure that your immune system is strong. You understand? That's where we start from. In preparation for any pandemics going forward, let us eat fresh food. let us eat safe food.
You have enough ammunition.
Yes, to fight back.
Yes.
That is number one. Then number two is on the obligation side, government.
Yes.
Where do we start from? We must make sure as government that we have food reserves. We do not have a middle, we can't take sides. It must be a well-planned system of making sure that we have a fallback position.
Yes.
Because the government was caught off guard. They didn't know where to get food from. They called the suppliers, donors, and it couldn't help.
Even MPs were looking for food to buy for their constituents.
So why would we be going into that mess? We ought to have our system. That is number one. Then number two, I know that Uganda is a liberal economy. But when it comes to food, government must have some level of control. It may not be upper hand, but it must have a level of control in terms of prices. Do you know I have colleagues who are lawyers who called me, Kabanda, what are you doing? The prices of food, the price. And people were crying about the price. Do you know that we ran out of salt during that time? It was Kenya that saved us.
Even lemon.
Even lemon. People even started selling wild fruits as lemon. You understand? So government must retain some control over prices and over food. So I think the point I want to make here, COVID has taught us that the capitalistic approach to food does not work. We need to respect smallholder farmers. Government must regain some level of control, and we must have food reserves. But lastly, let us embrace environmental justice, agroecology, and make sure that people grow food within their own communities, and by within their own communities to cut down. You call me here one time, I'll be talking about the law and food miles.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Viewers,
this has been a bit of an overdose, really. And really have to thank David Kabanda. I think David makes very, very valid points, and they are very simple. One, look after yourself. Ensure that your immunity is boosted. You're eating the right food, you're exercising, so that in case a pandemic came again, personally you're in position to defend yourself. But to our government, he's made a very strong case for regulation. Food is a sensitive matter. It's what enters into our bodies. So if we let people who are after money to control what enters our bodies, that could be a problem. That could be a problem for you. That could be a problem for our families, a problem for this country. With that, viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of You and the Law, the COVID edition. I've been your host, Jonathan Ochom, and we've been having Mr. David Kabanda from the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. Thank you so much. Next week, we'll be looking at another topical right that has been hit by the virus. Tune into House of Talent Television, and you'll get to know what that is. Bye for now.
Thank you very much. So this has been a very great talk show with Eddie Okila here. I would say that first, when you think about Build Uganda, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, we live in a free market economy. So people are going to buy your products not because it is Ugandan. No, they're going to buy your product because they love the product, because there is value that they want to get out of that product. So make sure that you're building for the customer and that it meets the standard that the customer expects. Then the customer falls in love with the product and they're hooked. They are your customer forever. Now they happen to be Ugandan, you happen to be Ugandan. Eventually we are building Uganda. Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is be creative in your business. Adapt to change. You know, look at all the changes. Ask yourself, what has changed in the past 5 years? Or what has not changed in the past 5 years? That's also a very good question to ask. And then respond to that change or that thing that hasn't changed. You know, COVID has happened. There are a lot of things that have changed currently. People are now adapting to working remotely. If you're a company, you're still asking people to come to the physical office 9 to 5. Maybe that needs to change. Maybe they need to come in a few days in a week, you know. Now you need to change your processes to allow for people to work from home, even past COVID. So these are the changes. Your customers, you still want them to come to the banking hall, maybe not, you know. Probably they can do some of these things that you require them to come to the banking hall remotely through digital channels that are existent, like WhatsApp, like Facebook, or even your website, you know. We have House of Talent here, it's broadcasting, and it doesn't have all the traditional broadcasting infrastructure that a TV station traditionally has. But here you are, you know, watching us, and you're watching us through all these channels that we have thought about and we are using. Yes, so adapt to the change, look at the things that haven't changed. If they haven't changed, then you know, build your business accordingly. Yeah, so that is my little piece of advice, and I'm also happy to receive some of the advice that you already have.
Bonjour, je suis très heureux de vous retrouver sur ce plateau de House of Talent TV pour cette nouvelle émission de Partage ton français. Chers amis, le français est partagé sur les 5 continents. Il y a une idée géniale qui a été soufflée à nos oreilles, bien sûr, par le président de la République de France, M. Emmanuel Macron, lors de son discours à l'Institut de France le 20 mars 2018. Il parlait de donner l'espace, de donner la chance à tout le monde de pouvoir apprendre la diversité de la langue française. Voilà pourquoi nous, ici en Ouganda, avec l'appui de l'ambassadeur de France en Ouganda, M. Julamani Nambusu, nous sommes en train de promouvoir la langue de Molière, la langue de Césaire, Aimé Césaire, la langue française. Et voilà pourquoi, encore une fois de plus, nous avons créé les plateformes de partage ton français. Ça veut dire quoi? Le français que tu as appris à l'école, à l'université, même à l'Alliance française, ne garde ça pas seulement pour toi-même. Partage avec ta famille, avec ton entourage. Tous ensemble, au jour à venir, nous allons parler le français. Merci, je ne suis pas seul, je suis avec mon invité d'aujourd'hui. Elle est ici pour partager le français avec nous. Elle s'appelle José. Et je pense qu'elle a une bouche, elle peut parler d'elle-même. Bonjour José.
Bonjour Patrick.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci, toi?
Ça va très bien, merci. Comment va la santé?
Je vais bien.
Très bien José, je vois ton français. You are improving in French.
Oui, oui. J'aime beaucoup la langue française.
Yes.
Parce que c'est la langue internationale.
Merci. Et c'est la langue des opportunités.
Oui, oui, oui.
José, est-ce que tu peux te présenter en français? Can you present yourself in French?
Oui.
Properly in French.
Oui.
And you're going to go deeper in English.
Okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Joséphine. Je suis styliste avec José Menzo du Cristo. Je suis ougandaise et j'habite à Kampala. J'aime beaucoup la langue française parce que c'est langue des opportunités.
Ouais.
Je suis contente d'être ici. Merci.
Merci José, tu es contente d'être ici. Oui. Tu sais, nous sommes où? À la chaîne YouTube House of Talent TV. Oui. Merci beaucoup. José, je vais demander, comment êtes-vous tombée amoureuse de la langue française? How did you fall in love in French language?
J'aime beaucoup la langue française parce que c'est la langue des opportunités et c'est la langue internationale.
So when did you start to learn French?
That was in 2019 when I was given the opportunity from the French embassy in Uganda. Actually, that is through the French government because the French embassy in Uganda is here because of the French government. So I was given a scholarship from the French government through the French embassy in Uganda, and I was taken to France in Paris to study French. My first French class was in Paris, and then when I came back to Uganda, I was given another opportunity at Alliance Française.
Okay.
Oui.
Tell me, who was your first teacher? Your first teacher who taught you French?
My first teacher for French was Blaise.
Blaise. At Alliance Française?
Oui, at Alliance Française.
Okay.
Oui.
Can you tell us, est-ce que tu peux nous dire, qu'est-ce que la francophonie? What is a francophonie for you, according to you?
A francophone to me are people who speak French, the different countries that speak French, and also the French culture, and then the way of living. To me, that is francophone all over the world.
Merci beaucoup. Dans le monde de ton travail, quelle est la valeur ou la nécessité du français? I mean, in your world, in your industry world, what the value or the necessity of French?
La langue française, c'est la langue des opportunités. C'est la langue des opportunités. Oui.
Go deeper in English.
French is an international language. It's a language of opportunities.
Yes.
In the different countries all over the world where there are French speakers or Francophone countries, for you to do business, you must know the language.
Exactly.
So for me to do business in Congo, I must know the language. To do business in France, to do business in Senegal, all those countries are French-speaking countries. So for me to be able to do business as an international designer, creative designer, I must first of all know the language. And also being an international language, it helps you to network with different people and socialize. Because if you know the language, you're able to communicate because it's a language of communication all over. And then also there is a lot of intermarriages. So you can't say, I'm a Ugandan, I'm going to only get married to a Ugandan. If I get married to a Frenchman, if I get married to a Congolese, I should be able to learn the language for easier communication. So it's very important everywhere you go because it's not only English that is important for communication.
In the same idea, I saw some picture. I saw you with the ambassadors. Tell us, first of all, it was Stephanie. I saw her with Chitendi. By the way, even me, guys, you can see the way I'm smart is because of who? Jose House of Creation. So you know, people, if you want to be smart like me, please come and be designed by Jose. So tell us about those pictures. I saw you with the ambassadors. Can you explain one by one? Okay.
I've designed as a creative designer at Jose House of Creations. I've been able to be privileged to design different ambassadors. I've designed Ambassador Stéphane Rivoire before she left Uganda. She was the ambassador of France to Uganda. I've designed her with different outfits. I've designed the current French ambassador in Uganda, Ambassador Juamana Nombozu. I've designed his outfit even for his family. I've designed Ambassador Deborah Malak of American Embassy in Uganda before she left Uganda. I've designed her. I've designed Ambassador Anna Radotiramet, the ambassador of Iceland Embassy in Uganda. She left. She's now in Paris. That's where she's stationed for a mission. But when she was still in Uganda, I designed her. I've designed Ambassador Susan Eki, the ambassador of Norwegian Embassy in Uganda. So I've designed different ambassadors and expatriates and diplomats because of our creativity and the way we embrace the Africanity. Because as an African designer, I don't want to be lost anywhere designing what other designers do. I want to embrace who I am. That's why I have a fashion show coming up called Back to My Roots, which means I have to embrace being an African designer, a Ugandan designer, and for people to know me for who I am.
Exactly.
So that's why on the 3rd September, which is next week, on Saturday, 3rd September, we'll be having a fashion show with French music, because it is supported by Alliance Francaise Kampala and then the French Embassy in Uganda and Total Energies. So I want us to embrace being who we are and then own it and appreciate the fact that we are Africans. I'm not going to be Louis Vuitton, so I have to tell people to be to appreciate who I am and who they are as Africans.
Merci, José. I saw also one picture, you with the Bobby one.
Yes. So in the video of Charenga, His Excellency Bobby Wine, I designed, as Joseph Creations, we designed all the outfits that he wore, even the cast that he had in that video. That was a very big breakthrough for me as a creative designer, because I mean, he's a big star in Uganda. So designing him in that video really added some more volume, and you know, it spoke a lot more about my creativity. And that's when people started recognizing my talent, yes.
Merci José. Est-ce que tu peux nous donner les noms des 2 ou 3 couturiers, les grands couturiers de France? 2 or 3 names of big designer fashion people in France.
Yves Saint Laurent.
Yves Saint Laurent. Yes.
Stéphane Bianca.
Exactly.
Pierre Cardin.
Pierre Cardin. Oui. Merci beaucoup. Quelles sont les couleurs préférées des Ougandais? What the color? Because the French people, they like black and blue. So, black and blue, I can say noir et bleu, parce que nous sommes en train de partager le français. So, which color, favorite color, Ugandans like you as a designer? En français, s'il vous plaît.
Let me first say in English, then you help me in French.
Okay.
Uganda, and our flag has black.
Yes.
How does it black in French?
Black, c'est noir.
C'est noir.
Oui.
Et red.
Rouge.
Rouge.
Ok. Merci beaucoup.
C'est l'Alliance française. La maison des profs des Français.
C'est l'Alliance française.
Une fille m'a posé une question. Pourquoi prendre le français alors que je lui parlais de la radio?
Merci beaucoup. Josephine, what inspired you to join the fashion industry? And when did you start Jose House of Creation business? Tell us.
What inspired me to join the fashion industry is my passion for fashion. So I love fashion so much. So before I was in media hosting a fashion program, but I wanted to do more than just being a TV presenter, but be able to do hands-on and more hands-on. So that's when that's what inspired me. And then I joined the fashion industry practically in 2017 when I quit my TV job, and I decided to settle into entrepreneurship as a fashion designer.
Okay, see.
Yes.
How have you been able to establish yourself as a successful creation designer?
First of all, my creativity in the fashion industry, it's more than what other people do. Yeah. Most people are just fashion designers. But I say I am a creative designer because I do more than just clothes, if you check through the different kind of works that we do. So that's what makes me different, and that with that I've been able to establish myself and be able to design different people. Also networking. So I do a lot of networking with different people when I go to events, and that sells me and my products, and the uniqueness and the passion I put in what I do gives it that unique touch that people find my work quite different from what other people do.
The way you are talking, I can see you love your work.
Yes, I do love it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, because you can inspire many people also to love what they're doing. When and how was your turning point?
My turning point came when I got that scholarship from the French embassy that saw me fly from Uganda. It was my first time in Europe. So going to France, staying there for that time, and everything was paid for by the French government. Like, imagine everything being paid for and you're not spending a single penny. That was my turning point. Wow. And also being able to get the entrepreneurship seed funding from the American embassy in Uganda. That is another government, American government, to finance my business. That was another big turning point in my life. So I treasure that a lot in my life.
Thank you so much. You are mostly in the French networks. Yeah. Take us through that journey. Especially that day is going to, next month, what you say about that connection between fashion and the French language.
My network with the French community comes in through mostly the French embassy in Uganda, because I'm a beneficiary of the French government through the French embassy in Uganda. So that has opened many opportunities for me, and the ambassador has been promoting Ambassador Joe Amana Nombozo. I say merci beaucoup pour l'opportunity. He has supported me so much through the embassy and personally, because I designed the ambassador. Even right now, he's in Paris. He traveled last week. But he left me with an order of almost 10 outfits that I'm designing for him. So that means a lot for me. And also through the French embassy, that whenever there is something, he makes sure they reach out to me to design a number of things that they want. Like during a time of COVID, I designed the branded masks for the embassy, and that is an opportunity that was so big for me in business. And also the fact that we have a fashion show that is coming up. My passion for French and the French language has made me be able to get exposed to different opportunities. That's why we have a fashion show coming up on 3rd September at Alliance Française Kampala, which is themed back to my roots. So I want to embrace myself as a fashion designer who is an African, and also it goes ahead and says fashion meets French songs. So it's fashion, which is me as a Ugandan and an African designer, but then there is a French part whereby people are going to learn a bit more about French, not just coming for an ordinary fashion show. So I'm fusing the two together because of the love I have and the gratefulness I have for the French government for having promoted me, giving me the platform to be the designer I am today. Everyone is seeing Jose up here, but it's this government that has pushed me and promoted me and given me the opportunity. And also I want to say thank you to House of Talent TV. For the opportunity for hosting me.
Thank you to Eddie.
To Eddie, okay,
Eddie, le professeur de français.
Yes.
He's going to become a professor, French professor.
The CEO bench. Thank you so much for this opportunity, because this means a lot to me. The platform you're giving me, there is an audience that follows Eddie Okilia and the CEO bench, that he's giving me this opportunity for you to be able to know more about Jose and Jose House of Creations. It means a lot to me. I cannot take that for granted. And also to Patrick.
Merci à toi. Last word.
Yes.
Give us a message, because many people are from. I want you to face the camera. Tell those ladies are thinking for them to succeed. They just want to get married. They just want some people to connect them, to push them, to send them mobile money or Western Union. Can you give them a message about what's coming from your heart? Motivate them.
In life, to be a successful person, you have to first of all discover who you are, work hard, and even when you face challenges, keep going, don't give up. Everything good comes with challenges, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And there is a saying which says, if you're doing what you don't love, then you're wasting your time. Discover who you are, what do you love, give it your best shot, and you'll be successful. And also to everyone, I want to encourage every single Ugandan, every single person that is watching me, please go and learn French. It is an international language. It is a language of opportunities. And just like I am today, I've been able to get these opportunities because I have an international language, which is French. And a special thank you to House of Talent TV, Edo Kilia. Thank you so much. I salute you for this opportunity.
Merci les amis, nous sommes à la fin de notre émission. Nous disons un grand merci à l'Alliance Française de Kampala avec notre directeur Patrice Jules, et merci à notre ambassadeur Jules Armand Nyamboussou, et aussi merci à Eddie, le professeur de français. He's the one who blessed us with this wonderful place for us to share French. Me and my guests, we are going to say together, Partage ton français. Guys, send us your number. We are going to put you on our platform, WhatsApp. You are going to interact with people. You are going to practice your French. We are here to promote French in Uganda. Vive la francophonie en Uganda. Ciao.
It's a CEO bench, so usually people want to assume that all CEOs are overlearned and stuff like that. So I will change the script this time around. I consider myself a certified hustler.
If I'm looking to know who you are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as Ugandan?
That's the easiest question I think to answer. I am a typical Lao man from a Rute North in a place called Ogur, and where I will be laid to rest is in a village called Agweng. So if you go there and you just say Otoa Tony, they won't really know me because my father is also Otoa Tony. You have to ask for Junior, and when you're asking, you have to ask with an accent. Junior Tikwene, where is Junior? And they will identify me. But I'm typically Ugandan, only Ugandan, from Lira. I pride myself from being from Lira. Earlier on, I was joking and saying I'm the coolest Lago south of Karuma. When you cross Karuma, there are so many. But when you're down the south after Karuma, I think I'm number one.
Wow. Well, now that you know Tonyo Toa is Ugandan, and of course, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
I think it's the love for country, love for nation. You know, truth be told, the country is in a lot of, it's a crisis. Leadership crisis, economic crisis, social crisis. There's so many mismatching areas. But at the end of the day, it's home. You know, you cannot run and abandon your home because of the issues in your home. I think that then creates an opportunity for you to do something to change what's happening and what you see as a crisis. So in terms of what I see as a value, or what I take out of that for me, I think it's just the love for country, the need to serve country the best way I can. And I mean, I can't say I can change everything, but the little I can do to create a difference, I think is more meaningful.
Wow. Mr. Tonyo Toa, growing up, what did you want to be in life? And what was the journey like for Mr. Toa?
Yeah, you know, my father is crazy. My father would call us and he would show me the compass. The idea was supposed to be a pilot. You know, the planes would fly over our house and my father would be like, yeah, you're going to be a pilot. But of course, as you grow, you realize that you have so many things that really define you. I was never a sportsman. So I enjoyed a lot of debate and, you know, a lot of indoor activities. And that is, I think, what really drove me into some of the things that I do up to today. Public speaking, the love for debates and really a lot of intellectual discourse and all this stuff. But besides that, I think it's also the fact that, I won't lie, I did not know what I wanted to be.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
What would you tell an ordinary person, a border rider, a teacher, a doctor, soldier? What would you tell them about human rights? What is this animal? Why is it important? Why should I know about it anyway?
I would simply tell them that if you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity. Freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave. You're born free. The right to basic education, like primary education, A-level. The right to your religion, if you're a Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, name it. Worship your God. The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how many times a day. No.
COVID-19 came and disorganized our economy, brought our health system to its knees, and along the way, affected our rights significantly. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. Today, we talk about COVID-19 and how it has affected our rights, our human rights that are provided for in different laws. With me in studio is an outstanding human rights lawyer, a founding partner of Kiza and Mugisha Advocates, CEO of the Environmental Shield, and recently a winner of the Human Rights Defender Award by the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders. Aaron, Kiza, you're welcome to You and the Law, the COVID edition.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for the accolades.
In House of Talent Television, what we do is we fist bump, and then we spread the love. So let's do this again. Fist bump and spread the love. That formula was taught to us by a man of God, Pastor Joshua Mugabe. He's a big fan of this television, and he says that you always have to spread the love, especially in these tough times. How have you been, Aaron?
I'm well, despite COVID-19.
I know that, like you said, it's been a tough time for many people, and as a human rights lawyer, I'm sure it also brings in lots of issues around your work. But I'm interested in actually knowing first about your model, because Kiza and Mugisha Advocates is substantially handles human rights work. How has that been working for you, and especially in this period?
In the first lockdown, we are really very busy as our clients were locked up. We had to engage with CMI, we had to engage with police.
CMI is the
Chieftains of Military Intelligence, the intelligence wing of UPDF, of the military. We had to had run-ins with police, and even at some point, Nicholas was detained.
Nicholas Opio.
And together with Odu and the Somo, we didn't sit down, we kept working because COVID-19 amplified the vulnerabilities of the vulnerable people we have already served. Yes.
It's sad because those are some of the people who really work hard to defend our rights in Uganda, and having them, locked down in this period, should be a sad trajectory for our human rights as a country.
It highlighted the struggles of human rights defenders in Uganda and the risks that they face by the very virtue of defending rights. You become a target of anti-rights people in Uganda. Yes.
Well, I'm happy that you're here and you could, make it to House of Talent Television. So you talked about human rights defenders, and that sort of brings me to, first conversation around understanding, unpacking this animal called human rights. What would you tell an ordinary person, a border rider, a teacher, a doctor, soldier? What would you tell them about human rights? What is this animal? Why is it important? Why should I know about it anyway?
I would simply tell them that if you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity. Freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave. You're born free. The right to basic education, like primary education, A-level. The right to your religion, if you're Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, name it. Worship your God. The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how many times a day. No, you have a right to work. The right to work, you have freedom of association. So this Bobby Wine, Obatima, just like Museveni, should be free to organize political parties, political activities, and persuade Ugandans that each of them is the best candidate on a level field. But we could also associate in football clubs. We could associate.
I know Ugandans are good with
yes,
European football, especially.
Yes, so we can fight over money and Arsenal.
AC Villa and Express.
And Express. And we form associations around those, that passion, but we could also be associating over neither football nor politics. It could be economy in cooperatives. So there are many ways of associating, and it's your right to associate, or even not to associate. You shouldn't be conscripted into a group that you're not very keen on or comfortable about. And you have a right to freedom of movement. Yes, to enter Uganda, to leave it. You may need a passport for some countries, a visa even for others, a national ID if you're just going
within the region.
You have also personal liberty to move within the country, to move without restraint. Because now when you're restrained, when the police says you're under arrest, then that's arrest. That's detention. Yeah.
So now talking about rights, so where do these rights come from? Because I think you're explaining the ideas, but then where are they rooted? If I say you're violating my right to X, Y, Z, where do I refer to? Do I just imagine it in my head, or is there some sort of framework in place?
Philosophically, they root in the very idea that you're a human being. They are inherent. But legally, they are spelled out in the national constitution. And the supremo, which is the supreme law of the land, and there are a cluster of other laws that supplement the constitution to ensure that you have procedures on how to go about your rights. The Children's Act, the Human Rights Enforcement Act, the Environment Act, and other laws that come after that. So then there are court decisions that also clarify and interpret those rights. So the freedom of religion was talked about, judicial review, access to remedy, Father Mishchire. So there are many court decisions that have pronounced themselves affirming freedom of expression. Like Onyango Bo is a famous case. Onyango Bo and Andrew Mwenda, when the state was harassing them over their speeches, journalistic work. So courts' decisions, the Constitution of Uganda, and other laws are the legal framework for human rights in Uganda.
Okay. And then slightly out of Uganda, is there a framework within the region, Africa, East Africa?
At the East African level, we have the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community, which talks of rule of law, of good governance, of accountability, of democracy, and even respect for universal human rights. and the broader African continent wide, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. At the international global level, we have a UN system of the International Bill of Rights, of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the Bureau rights, or the civil liberties, then the red rights preferred mostly by China, formerly the communist bloc, and even Africa and Asia, the conventional economic, social and cultural rights. And before those two, we had the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Universal, that sort of cuts across the...
Yes, and I think that's the most important human rights instrument. It has all shades of human rights, and it reflected global consensus on human rights.
Okay, I think that's a good, point to go for a break, because you've provided the concept and the legal framework around this. Viewers, you're watching House of Talent Television. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition. Let's go for a break, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, on a day-to-day basis, Whether it is in your bedroom, there is a law that governs it. If you're married, for example, even if you're single, there could be something touching on the law, because you might be in your bedroom with an underage girl, or you might be with another person's wife. All the things are the law.
If you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity. Freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave.
If you look at our penal code, it sets out another marriage laws. It sets out the persons who can marry and those who cannot marry, right? For example, you can't marry your close relatives. If you did, you'd be committing a crime.
The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how to worship, how many times a day. No, you have a right to work. The right to work, you have freedom of association.
Cohabitation for whatever period of time does not make you husband and wife, right? And that is why we emphasize to people that when the relationship is still hot, you must ensure that you do what? Marry.
Yes. For human rights to be respected, protected, and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals, oxygen should be there, health workers should have gloves, teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
This is You and the Law, the COVID edition. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. Today we are privileged to have Mr. Aaron Chiza, an outstanding human rights lawyer, helping us to unpack the interplay between human rights and COVID-19 pandemic. So Aaron, we're still at the level of discussing these rights. And you kept mentioning the state, you mentioned state organs like the CMI. So I thought maybe you could give us a sneak peek into the obligations, who bears human rights obligations in Uganda or even across the world?
Primary duty bearer is the government of the day, what they call the state.
The state.
Yeah, so the state of Uganda has a duty to respect your rights. So it shouldn't infringe your rights. It shouldn't illegally detain you. It shouldn't stop you from moving out of the country. It shouldn't stop you from coming back to Uganda, as they have sometimes. I mean, there's a time they stopped Besigye, and I think Chingi can't even dare come here. yes. So respect. Yeah. Respect. They shouldn't torture you, and unfortunately they fail a lot on that. The military fails a lot, the police fails a lot. You saw even police torturing a magistrate on video. So they should respect, they should stay away from infringing your rights, from violating them. Then they have a duty to protect your rights, or the full spectrum of rights. So when to say they protect the rights is that they should stop third parties, like criminals, like strong multinational companies from violating your rights, from abusing your rights. For example, your rights property, i.e. land or rights due process. They normally get threatened by unruly soldiers in a village, removing all villagers, a big company removing all people.
I know you've been working on a number of cases in that area.
So the state is the primary duty holder. It is before you think of a human rights lawyer, an NGO, the state should be there protecting you. Of course, unfortunately, they don't understand that sometimes.
Sometimes they switch the roles.
So you find that instead of protecting you, the police, which represents the state at that level, or the RDC, or other institutions are actually hounding you out of your property, blocking you from accessing vital information. So that's the antithesis of protecting your rights to information, participation, to property, to privacy, etc. State also has a duty to fulfill. That is most clearly relevant to economic and social rights, which need a lot of facilities.
Investment.
The right to food, yes, investment. The right to food, the right to education, other economic, social rights, the right to health. For example, the right to health needs proper functioning hospitals with drugs, with motivated doctors who are competent and well paid, doctors and other health workers, nurses, midwives, and so on and so forth. We need schools that are safe to live in, to occupy, with teachers that know what they are doing, are qualified, are properly inspected, and who are well paid.
They're not complaining and striking all the time.
Yes. And the schools shouldn't be far. The schools and hospitals shouldn't be far. They should be accessible, both in terms of distance, but also in terms of economic accessibility. There should be no monetary barriers that stop people from Kanungu or Achori from accessing schools.
So Aaron, so with that, then we got COVID-19 coming to shock our country, shocking the whole world, and along the way, destabilizing, causing a revolution, as other people have termed it. From a human rights angle, how has COVID-19 affected human rights? Could you sort of flag off some of the rights that have been directly hit by this global pandemic?
COVID-19 came hit us in 2020, which was also the electoral year. And it messed up the campaigns, because now some people had excuses for stopping you from moving. You couldn't campaign, you couldn't hold a rally, so it devalued, it degenerated the level of our politics. And the people who dared actually either campaign, if they were not of the ruling party, like you saw in the primaries, and it was like opposition, like Zake, who even was just giving out food, then you know how he ended up in a vegetative state out of a military or other policy structure. And the Kakwenza, you saw Kakwenza was hit twice last year, in April and later in September. And those are just a few names that I can roll off, but many people. So the political civil rights were heavily affected. The economic and social rights were compromised because the state, first of all, had no ability to fulfill its duty of fulfilling human rights, of promoting them, and it didn't even respect them because people couldn't eat, many died, people couldn't, significant numbers couldn't access hospital facilities, and of course, to date, people haven't gone back to school. But there is a third level of human rights, of collective rights, like environmental rights. So that was also greatly compromised because whether it is Bugoma, Semuliki, forests are going. And the tempo of deforesters increased during COVID because there was no watchful eye. Institutions like the previous NEMA officer said they couldn't do public hearings over Bugoma because of COVID. So people got many excuses for violating rights. And of course, justice was hampered, courts closed. There was little access to justice.
And lawyers were not essential workers.
Lawyers were not essential workers, neither were any other HRDs. So this whole system for facilitating human rights remedies, participation and accountability was jeopardized by COVID-19.
But you paint a picture that I could say maybe is a little bit gloomy, but I'm wondering from what the government did, the government interventions. There's a lockdown, justifiable, airports shut down, an attempt at online education, an attempt at food distribution and cash distribution and stuff like that. What could be sort of your assessment of some of those measures that government put in place to curb the spread of the virus, and how were they able to protect rights in your view?
Yeah, they are relevant for rights, especially economic, social and cultural rights. People need food, people need protection from further spread, hence the lockdown being justified on that account. Even the airport shutdowns were very essential to stem the tide of COVID from other countries, say the Middle East or Europe, which had bigger problems. So they were good ideas. It's just that the implementation was very weak. Food was only distributed in a few areas of Kampala. Not many were reached. Money was given to a few people, and as we are now beginning to learn, mostly the wrong people. Well, if they are Ugandans, can they be wrong? That's another question. But the thing is that the ideal targets, the vulnerable people,
the most vulnerable,
in Kasese, the best minority didn't get money. And the other, even in your area, you just need to call and they will tell you, no, we are still waiting for the Nabanja money, and it's not coming. And of course, unfortunately, it is thought as a government gift. It's a government duty. Government needs to do that for it to continue being government. If it doesn't, it stops.
I also know that from the aspect of the law, there was an attempt at e-justice. I think I saw some videos of people appearing in court through video link.
There was an attempt, and I am happy you call them attempts because they just barely scratch the surface. The justice system, like some other systems, substantially shut down. And the video conferencing for criminal cases is very limited. You will tell you Uganda Road and maybe anti-corruption. Even then you had to book it. Those e-systems were problematic prior to the pandemic. Within the pandemic, they were completely overwhelmed. So you still have political detainees who are still in prison to this date. Whether it is Nope or someone who tried to flog Museveni's FJ, there are many people. So it was a good idea, but it didn't work.
But it didn't work, and much of these are guarantees under the law and everything.
So those are negations to fundamental human rights. The failure of good government programs to be implemented, because for human rights to be respected, protected and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals, oxygen should be there, health workers should have gloves, teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
So overall, you could say
the performance was dismal, 10%.
Isn't that?
I'm being generous.
With 10%?
Yes. Because if you only give food to a few people in Kawempe, only in Kampala, a few sporadic
out
people.
of about 42
so
million.
I'm generous with the 10% score. I'm only trying to make sure that I reach home.
Wow. But at least you appreciate the initiative.
Yes, very much.
The principle.
The ideas are very good. It's a good thing to give people food. We need food because we are not working. So we need to be fed. We need money to feed because we need data and so on to communicate because that's more important now because we can't physically visit people we love. We need to give them phone calls. We need to text them.
We need to work.
And hopefully we are testing people in the outside
Not wrong people.
Yes.
And we need to work. The internet is very
much
instrumental.
It's the new office. The new office, people really have there's a big economy on the internet and it enables people to work even internationally. People have been attending meetings. The good side, the flip side of COVID is that it has heightened the importance of virtual space, of virtual work, of virtual jobs. Yes.
Okay, viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host, and today we're hosting Aaron Chiza from Kiza and Mugishan Advocates, a top human rights practice law firm in Uganda. Let's go for a break. We'll be right back. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, and today we're hanging out with Aaron Chiza, a human rights lawyer in Kampala, who's done outstanding work safeguarding people's rights across this country. And today we're discussing COVID-19 and how it has affected our human rights in this country. Aaron, before we went for a break, we're talking about government interventions. You even attempted to give a score sheet. I don't know based on what parameters, perhaps the obligations that you explained at the start of the show. But we need to now sort of move forward and think about that next 5-10 years, we could be perhaps in a similar situation. What does it look for the country? How do we protect human rights? Because, I mean, these are extraordinary times. And we don't know what will hit us next. Could be a tsunami, could be another pandemic and stuff like that. But perhaps before we go into that aspect of recommendation, we could think about the lessons. So looking at COVID-19 now and how it has disrupted our lives, disrupted our rights, what do you think government of Uganda can learn? Because I remember at the start of the pandemic, they said, we've already handled Ebola before. We handled cholera before. I don't know if there was any learning applied in the COVID response, but then we could think about, we have a chance now to prepare for the future. And what sort of would you flag? Assume tomorrow you're the Minister of Health and you're at the forefront of this conversation. What lesson do you think we can pick from our response to COVID-19, especially in the angle of protecting rights?
A major right on all.
You could first say amen to my prophecy that could be the next Minister of Health.
Yeah, glory be to God. I look forward to that moment. So a major right on all said that in times of peace, prepare for war.
Yes.
So you don't need to wait for a pandemic to wait for a pandemic. we have had a ministry for disaster that's more disastrous than pandemics. That basically does nothing to prepare us.
They distribute food
not
during
even landslides
floods.
found them already in just one localized area. So we need to have to be foresighted to know that health systems should work all times, and when they are working and the pandemic comes, they will be stressed, but they will not be run down. You get me? We also need to know that the human rights do not frustrate service provision or COVID responses or pandemic responses. They actually augment and mobilize the entire population to respond, because the whole point of human rights is to encourage participation, to encourage accountability, so that less or no money meant for COVID is stolen. And when all money that is meant to build the country is put in education, in health, in the right places, then we are better able to fight COVID and any other related disease. We need to look at other countries which are doing well. We need to know that the military is a good, but it cannot be a substitute for professional services like doctors, lawyers, journalists, and so on and so forth. And that there are wars that the military simply can't fight. That
Are you suggesting that we put the army at the forefront of our current response? Is that your suggestion?
That's what we did. That's what we shouldn't have done. The military cannot help you to fight a virus that is fighting inside the bodies, including of soldiers. You need doctors to diagnose the problem. You need the researchers to come up with Covidex and others. You need to, yes, another lesson is indigenous knowledge. It's very important. We shouldn't be too colonial in our thinking that we demonize as witchcraft people who come up with remedies. And here I have to thank Vesige. His remedy prescription has proved to work for many, including for myself. Yeah, people who took COVID, a good number of them, Covidex, have good testimonies. And there's also another lady from Guru Hospital, I think, Guru University, who also developed a working, she was working on a remedy for asthma, and now it was applied. So indigenous knowledge, that's how China gets to develop, that's how India develops, must combine with modern or imported knowledge, and they work together. Those are some of the lessons.
And you talked about at the start of the show, you mentioned a couple of principles of human rights, talked about participation at some point. And I'm wondering, if we're talking about fighting another pandemic or learning from this, how have those principles been utilized in the current response against COVID? And perhaps how would they inform our next intervention?
When people participate in decision making, even lockdown, either directly or through their parliaments, with their representatives, they will easily buy in. You do not need a military barracks out of the barracks to ensure that they stay home. Now, because they have participated, they have the relevant information about the dangers of a pandemic. They know if you go out, you're finished. Then because they need life, they will keep in. But when they don't participate, they will perceive this as a political project. And you don't want to fight a pandemic through politics. You need to fight it on health information.
Science.
Yeah, on science, yes.
And then you talked about accountability in the course of our conversation. How do you think that sort of helps us respond to extraordinary times like this?
Accountability helps on two levels. One, there will be transparency on the way the ministry officials, the health guys, they do their work related to COVID. They will do it transparently. People will see them. If asked questions, they will respond. The media spotlight will enable that they answer questions, they guide people. But also those who steal our money in so doing will be brought to justice.
Or those who stumble on our rights.
Those who stamp on our rights will be also brought to justice, and they will compensate the victims and so on and so forth. So it improves the governance. Accountability, just like participation, they improve COVID response governance. The quality, they improve the quality. They make us more effective in fighting COVID because they will ensure that the drugs, oxygen cylinders, oxygen itself medical workers, teachers reach hospitals and schools. Food actually, if it is distributed, it gets to most homes at least, not a few homes, and people taking it up because you had big wigs actually taking food and taking it to the market rather than it going to sick mothers.
Someone asked,
children.
Yes, someone asked me that what informed, for example, the decision to either give cash or distribute food, and they were saying, you see, perhaps if the people had participated in that decision-making process, you know, maybe we could be having a different story than what we're hearing these days. In our start, again, we had a conversation around equality, and I'm wondering, how do we promote equality or non-discrimination in a COVID response?
Yeah.
Because you correctly said, you know, some people are vulnerable, and then they are not sort of getting the attention that is commensurate to their need compared to perhaps yourself, who can survive a few months without under lockdown or whatever.
Yeah, the human rights concept of equality and non-discrimination, it helps vulnerable people to lead a dignified life. In a sense, the state as a primary duty bearer will not allow only one cluster, class, or caste of society to keep alive while others are dying of hunger. You get me? To one class to access medicine while others are not accessing medicine just because they are in far-flung areas or because they cannot afford the money to buy it.
Or they can get a travel pass to fly out of the country.
Fly out, or because they cannot fly out because, first of all, they will not have a passport. Or they will not even afford the means to go to the... It's not easy to move from Chisoro to Entebbe airport or from Okabara Maido. Yeah, it takes some money. It takes even some knowledge, some education. It takes privilege. Now, human rights, especially equality and non-discrimination, ensure that even those people get the basics of life. They get the medicine, they get food, they have clothing, regardless of whether it's a pandemic or not. Yeah, and it's precisely the duty of government to ensure that these social services reach these people wherever they are at all times, including in a pandemic. People should never stop eating because it's a pandemic. People should not die
Miss school.
Avoidable death. Miss school just because it's a pandemic. The duty of government is sure that people get all these amenities regardless of a pandemic. If it means providing free internet to all villages in the country, ensuring there is electricity throughout, and active distribution of food to all families, so be it.
And when we, in the course of this conversation, we had a chat around the legal framework of human rights. During Uganda's COVID response, which is still ongoing, there was a debate at a certain point around the issuance of presidential directives, and there was, you know, people saying that, you know, we're enforcing the directive, and then there was a school of thought that no, actually, the power to make these laws and regulations is actually vested in one person, like the Minister of Health and things. I thought I could pick your mind there as a lawyer, because I know legality is a core aspect of human rights. It's an underlying principle. What's your thought around the interplay between presidential directives?
The marking guide is simple.
The marking guide
was their participation of the people in the COVID responses, or it was just a president sitting with a clique of minister officials and proclaiming to all of us what we should do or should not do? Was there accountability of people who stole all these things? There is a constitution, was it respected? Because the constitution is the supreme law, and you don't declare an emergency except within the confines of the constitution.
Of the law.
Was it done? It was not done in the constitution. If it was done according to the constitution, it would have been through parliamentary resolution, and parliament would have had oversight over the situation. But even legally speaking, parliamentarians were not allowed to move.
They were not essential.
Essential workers. Yes. So legally speaking, there were many issues including those overarching principles of participation of ordinary people in this process was lacking.
Of enacting
it
the
became
laws.
a one-man show, and in the election season, it is understandable, especially if you're here.
Yeah, but I think the provisions were generally good. For example, I know one of the regulations was like, no spitting in public. And, these are all measures meant to contain the situation. Isn't it understandable? Is it in black and white that you can't move away from certain rights, or you must stick to...
Whatever you do, the beginning must be right. Yeah, so if you use the colonial law in the preference of our constitution, which you made yesterday, 95, there is a problem from there. As for spitting in public, it's unfortunate you even need a new law. Because, it's a basic ethical issue that spitting in public, you are nauseating other people, and you could cause the spread of not just COVID-19, but these other airborne diseases.
People could be losing their appetite because they are seeing you.
Yeah.
And Aaron, back to your core work, as a human rights defender. How do you see, how should actors like yourself prepare to deal with the pandemic in future as we come to the end of this show?
At a personal level, I think we need to be learn to be forced to save. We have to cut on our appetite for expenditure and what we spend on, and just be a little more frugal, and also to know that the times have changed. COVID is upon us. We don't know when it is going to come to an end, but we need to be there to see it end.
All right. What a powerful way to end the show. Viewers, you've been watching House of Talent Television. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition. It's been me, your host, Jonathan Ochom, alongside our guest, Aaron Chiza from Chiza and Mugisha Advocate. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to the next episode. I'll be discussing yet another human right, specifically identifying various rights that have been hit by this pandemic and how we can maneuver through them. Until then, see you.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television. COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
At the time when COVID-19 came, a lot of mitigation, a lot of discussions and what were talked about, were resolved by the COVID-19 task force by then. But we never had a single representative for persons with disabilities. So all those mitigation and preventive measures, they came up with them without due diligence, without due consideration with the disability fraternity in Uganda. It is as a result of that that persons with disabilities continued struggling with this pandemic. I must tell you that even with the various updates, with the various updates, call them briefings on COVID-19, briefings on the various radios, on the various TVs, the disability fraternity was left behind.
Hello viewers, welcome to yet another episode of You and the Law, the COVID edition, here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. You and the Law has focused on the issues of the law and how it affects everyday lives. How do you wake up in the morning and ensure that you're on the safe side of the law? This program is here to unpack different aspects of the law and ensure that we, the ordinary citizens of this country, are able to live safely, knowing that we have the law on our side at every given time. Today, we discuss the rights of persons with disabilities in the context of how COVID-19 has affected it. As you know, the COVID edition of You and the Law tackles human rights and how they've been hit by the pandemic. With me in studio today is Mr. David Nangosi, who's a program officer at the National Union of Disabled Persons in Uganda, popularly known as NUDIPU. David, you're welcome to You and the Law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ochom, for hosting me here.
How have you been?
I'm so privileged. I've been well. The Lord has been in control in spite of circumstances, including COVID-19.
Yeah.
Right.
We're talking about rights of persons with disabilities today. But I know that you are from NUDIPU and you're like one of the foremost organizations working on disability rights in the country. But we could start by just understanding what NUDIPU is, what NUDIPU does, what your mandate is, and then we could carry on from there.
Thank you very much. Basically, just to confirm, I'm David Nangosi and I work for that NUDIPU. NUDIPU is a national umbrella organization for persons with disabilities in Uganda. This organization started way back in 1987, before I was born. And its intention was to advocate for the promotion and for the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities here in Uganda. Apparently, our vision is to see to it that there is a just and fair society where persons with disabilities live prosperous and dignified lives. That is our vision. And we work with organizations of persons with disabilities. Those are our full members. They are otherwise referred to as the disabled persons organizations, but now from a rights perspective, they are called organizations of persons with disabilities. We also work with the district unions. These are situated in the different districts of Uganda. Apparently, we work with 112 districts.
You still have a bit of catching up to do because the districts are clearly increasing.
And I should note that when we talk about persons with disabilities, I think viewers need to appreciate the fact that there are several categories of persons with disabilities.
Yes, yes.
We have persons with the physical disabilities. That is one of them.
Yeah.
You'll see people in wheelchairs, people with one arm off. You'll see people with 2 arms off, things like that.
Okay.
Those are persons with physical disabilities. You also see people who are blind. There are those who are fully blind, those that are partial blind, those are subscribed to disability. We also have those that are deaf. Then we also have those that are deaf blind as well.
Or deaf blind, both hearing and vision. Okay.
Yes, those deaf blind. And we also have persons with albinism. That's another disability category. Then we also have persons with mental disabilities, who include those with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities. We have persons of little stature, otherwise referred to as little persons. We also have now persons with epilepsy. We also have persons with cerebral palsy. We have the hard of hearing persons. But basically, disability is an evolving concept.
So every other time something perhaps new comes.
Right. So the ones that I have mentioned are not conclusive. We are most likely going to realize or get more disability types because of the different causes. But this is within the ambit of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which advises us that disability is an evolving concept. As I talk about these existing disability categories, there are others maybe that I don't know that are emerging. But with the time, we are yet to appreciate them. Important to note, however, is that each of these disability category has its organization here in Uganda. And it is these organizations that are now full members of NUDIP, that NUDIP works with from time to time. Yeah.
David, you've given so many illustrations of the different disabilities.
Right.
But how would we explain disability as a concept? As an what does it mean before we get an example? For example?
Well, first of all, we need to appreciate the fact that persons with disabilities, when one asks you what they mean, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has advised us that these are people who have long-term physical, mental, they are those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, and social impairments, which interaction with other barriers hinders their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. So you will see that there could be several barriers in society, and when persons with disabilities engage or interact with these barriers at the end of it all will affect their full and effective participation. And when I talk about the various barriers, I mean barriers including the physical barriers. This relates to the physical environment that must be very clear to our views. We have the physical structures that are not accessible to persons with disabilities. We have the physical structures without ramps. We have physical structures without electronic elevators. We have toilets that are constructed that do not, that are constructed that do not actually are accessible to persons with disabilities. Then we also have attitudinal barriers. That relates to generally attitude.
How we perceive.
How persons with disabilities are being perceived. And then we have communication barriers. Communication barriers, this mainly affects persons with hearing impairments, who include the deaf, who include the hard of hearing persons. I hope our viewers know they can distinguish between the hard of hearing persons and the deaf. Now, the deaf totally don't hear anything, but the hard of hearing persons, they are able to hear something.
A little bit.
Yes.
So they need a device to
yeah. Even the deaf persons also, they also have the hearing devices.
David,
yes,
you've highlighted the plight, the challenges that persons with disabilities have in this country,
Sure.
the barriers, but also explain them.
Yes.
How about the law? Because now everything you're explaining as a concept needs for it to be enforceable.
Yes.
Needs to have some legal backing. So I'm thinking at the global, regional, national level. Do you have any laws that speak to the rights of persons with disabilities? And
yes, we do.
Okay.
I would like to state with certainty that Uganda is one of the countries that has registered progressive realization in the promotion and protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. And so there are legal frameworks that Uganda has ratified from that are at the international level, that are at the regional level, and also those that are here at the national level. So when we talk about legal frameworks at the international level, we look at the several treaties that Uganda has ratified. But first, to begin with, we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This provides for the universality of human rights without discrimination, and persons with disabilities are not discriminated therein, because rights are supposed to be promoted for all. But after that, we saw several treaties coming on board. There is a lot of history around that with the Geneva Conventions and all that. We saw treaties like the Convention Against Torture. We saw treaties like Convention on Rights of Children. We saw treaties like there are quite very many. The CEDAW Convention on Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, among others. Those treaties actually had limited provisions that relate to persons with disabilities. So later on, we saw the General Assembly coming up with a resolution that led to the coming into force of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So on the international scene, apparently, we have the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities that Uganda ratified in 2008 together with its optional protocol.
We are good at ratifying,
So
right?
the convention specifically provides for disability. It clarifies the rights of persons with disabilities and provides the obligations that states, including Uganda, are supposed to respect and promote, to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities are promoted.
Yes.
And then also at the regional level, we have, of course, we have the Banjul Charter, that is commonly known as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. It also has some provision that relate to disability, but specifically we have the East African Policy on Disability, and that provides specifically for the rights of persons with disabilities at the East African level. And we also, I don't know that it has been enacted into law, the East African Persons with Disabilities Act. I need to establish further. But we also have the Marrakesh Treaty. The Marrakesh Treaty also provides for the rights of persons with disabilities, especially those with visual impairments, to access the published works. To access the published works. So persons with visual impairments are able to access the various published materials and print these in their own version, in their own format. Things like that. So it provides access to published works by persons with visual impairments. Now that's as far as the African region, South African region is concerned. But also here at the national level, I would like to recognize the fact that this country has done something to uplift the status of persons with disabilities by coming up with several enactments. First, beginning with the supreme law, which is our constitution. Our constitution has clearly provided for the rights of persons with disabilities. Look at Objective 16, that looks at the dignity for every person with disability to be respected, and it has gone further to provide for affirmative action for persons with disabilities and the Bill of Rights, and then it has also gone further to provide for the specific rights of persons with disabilities in Article 35, which Article 35 also has gone further to provide for specific laws to be made to guarantee the respect and the promotion of the rights of persons with disabilities. So on that note, we have specific disability laws in Uganda, whereas we have other general laws that have disability provisions. The specific laws include now the Person with Disabilities Act.
We can go for a break after.
Oh, right.
Yeah, after. At this point where you've explained the constitution, then we shall carry on with the other laws.
Right.
So viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. Today we're discussing COVID-19 and how it has affected the rights of persons with disabilities. And with me in studio is Mr. David Nangosi, a program officer at NUDIP. Let's go for a short break. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the law,
Good morning or good afternoon from your sitting room. This is XXL Season 4 and particularly on the book review. Today I'm going to be talking to the gentleman who is well known to most of you and the gentleman who I would say in my own opinion shaped the media landscape in Uganda after the 1986. The gentleman known as Mr. William Pike is on the show today to talk about the book that I think is the greatest book so far at the moment in Uganda. And of course, the book that rhymes most of the books are written, telling the story of Uganda before the 1986 and perhaps after the 34 years. William Pike, in his book, talks about some very intimate stuff and as well as some very difficult moments of the history of Uganda and as a country. Let's dive into it. And William, welcome to the show.
Thanks for bringing me on, Eddie.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Tell me about your flight from Nairobi to Kampala.
Well, I haven't tried Uganda Airlines yet. I must try it. I normally come on Jambo Jet, and it's fine. I come every month to Uganda to check on Capital Radio. So. I'm still around.
Okay, so you haven't flown Uganda Airlines, but did you fly the Uganda Airlines, the original Uganda Airlines?
Flew Uganda Airlines in the old days.
Yes.
And I think even in the book, there's a story of how when I moved to Uganda, which was in, I think, June 1986. Yeah. So I'd been covering the Bush War before then. But I actually moved and came to work at New Vision full-time in June 1986. We went on Uganda Airlines Boeing 707 from Gatwick, and then we got all the way over Sudan, and then some part of the plane broke down, so we had to go back to Gatwick.
Whoa.
And
from Sudan?
From Sudan all the way back, which is like 3/4 of the way to Uganda.
Yeah.
And we went all the way back to Gatwick, and it was a pretty. It was more like a matatu than a plane. And I think as that plane that eventually crashed in Rome in, I can't remember when that was, 1989 or 1990. So that's how, but that's the last time I flew Uganda Airlines. But I look forward to flying the new Ugandan Airlines.
Okay. What do you think of the Ugandan airline of today versus the Ugandan airline of the old days?
Well, it's too early to comment, but my one concern is it's so difficult to make money running an airline. South African Airlines is effectively bankrupt. Kenya Airways, the government Kenya Airlines is requesting the government to nationalise it. Rwanda Air survives on subsidies from the state, substantial subsidies. Ethiopian Airlines is the most profitable and successful African airline.
Yeah.
Ethiopia is a highly disciplined country, So I don't think you have a problem in Ethiopia of training pilots, and then they go to work for Emirates. It's a challenge, and I hope Uganda Airlines succeeds. I'm sure they can succeed with short-haul regional flights. The challenge is doing long-haul international flights. That can be very expensive and challenging.
Yes, and I think we're bringing about 3 or 4 planes, to that effect, right? Well, you have heard from William the experience of flying Uganda Airlines back in the days. So let's dive into this very long-awaited for moment of the combatants, the memo of the Bush War in Uganda, and the press in Uganda. What a title!
Well, the title comes from the NRA song, which you can find on YouTube if you want to listen to it.
They fought a bush war, heavy and encouraging, until when the blood was shed for Ugandans. Fellow combatants and patriots in the struggle, our country must be free.
They gave their lives so that Uganda could be free. So it's that you can listen to that song on YouTube, and that's where the song came from.